Welcome to this crash course in the Italian wine region of Liguria. You're going to learn exactly what makes Liguria a unique wine-producing region, what types of wines are coming out of that region, and where you should begin your journey in tasting these wines. I'm Tony Margiotta, wine importer and author of Hidden Gems of Italy. My life's mission is to look for and support world-class artisanal wines handcrafted in small batches from Italy, many of which have been overlooked and undervalued. And my family's from a small village in the Molise region of southern Italy, and I've been traveling to Italy over 20 years, immersing myself in Italian food, wine, and culture. So where is Liguria? Well, it's found in the northwest of Italy. It shares its borders with Tuscany, Emilia-Romagna, Piemonte, and also France to the west. The name Liguria comes from its prehistoric people, the Ligurians, that inhabited this area and the surrounding areas more than 4,000 years ago, predating the Romans. The origins of these people is actually a mystery today. The capital of Liguria is the great city of Genova, and the region has been made famous throughout the world for its riviera called Cinque Terre. The Cinque Terre are 5 small villages that sit on the edge of these very high rocky cliffs that stare straight down into the Tyranean Sea. The views are magnificent and cannot be duplicated. People call the wines of Liguria heroic wines because the vineyards are located, as you can see in this picture, on dangerously steep slopes that stare down into a deep blue sea. The local people are willing to risk falling and hurting themselves and even death for vino. Wow, what a passion, right? Liguria is truly a unique wine-producing region for this magnificent and dangerous wine culture that they've developed over centuries. Here's a quick picture of a farmer carrying a basket of grapes over one of these dangerous cliffs. And I would be committing a crime against food if I didn't mention that the region is also famous for the best pesto in the world because Liguria has some of the best basil in the world. So naturally it makes sense the region happens to have more white wines than reds since its most famous dish requires white wine pairing. So how should you think about Liguria wines? Of course, it has its own native grape varietals cultivated locally, and it also has several appellations. So let's go over the native Liguria grapes. So the region is dominated by white wines, like I just mentioned, Vermentino being the most popular varietal in the region. The most popular white varietal in Sardinia also happens to be Vermentino, but because of the terroir differences, the wines are very different from each other. The Vermentinos in Sardinia tend to be fuller bodied with more citrus and tropical fruits, while the Ligurian Vermentinos tend to be more light bodied and more minerality, lightly fragrant as well. Now, you'll also find Sangiovese, no surprise there, in the region, as well as Ormeasco, which is the local way of saying in Liguria, dolcetto. So if you saw my video about Piemonte, you would know that dolcetto is one of its native grapes. Happens to be the same thing as Ormeasco. The most unique red varietal in Liguria, though, happens to be the Rossese grape. And of course, like I say in all my other videos, before you put a check mark off of having tasted any of these varietals, please make sure you try an artisanal version made by a small producer, someone who makes 50,000 bottles a year or less, so you can really experience the originality and authenticity of that varietal. Now, let's look at the appellation side of Liguria. There are no DOCGs in the region, but there are several DOCs. Not a lot, but considering how small the region is, it's actually quite loaded with some appellations. Generally speaking, while Liguria is not as well known in the United States as a wine producing region, throughout Europe it is a very well respected region for its quality wines. So which appellations should you check out? Cinque Terre DOC is a white wine predominantly made with the Bosco grape. back up here on this list. And forgive me, I didn't read off the rest of the white grapes. So besides Vermentino, the second most important white varietal is Bosco, followed by Albarola. And typically these varietals are blended together. You will find 100% monovarietals of Vermentino, possibly an occasional Bosco, but in this appellation, Cinque Terre, there needs to be a minimum of 40% Bosco in the varietal. So I would say, look, the higher the better. If you can find a Cinque Terre that has 85, 90%, even 100% Bosco, I would definitely check that out just to experience the essence of that varietal. After that, there's Colli di Luni, DOC, which you'll probably find in the United States more so than any of the other appellations. It's probably been the most successful appellation thus far from the region, and you can find both white wines and red wines from this appellation, whereas the Cinque Terre tends to be more white wines. Now, the Colli di Luni DOC the Colli di Luni, are typically Sangiovese blends. So for those of you who are Sangiovese enthusiasts and you want to explore some Sangiovese wines outside of Tuscany, you might want to take a look at Liguria and see what those taste like. What else can I tell you? Oh, the Colli di Luni DOC appellation is one of the few appellations in Italy that is shared between two different regions. So this is sort of important. Colli di Luni is shared with Tuscany. And so while it certainly makes sense that these are Sangiovese-based blends for the reds, the whites tend to focus on Vermentino, and I would recommend you looking for the Colli di Luni DOC from the Liguria side for the Vermentinos, so you could experience those. You may have noticed if you saw my Tuscany crash course video that I did not recommend this particular appellation because I feel that it's a little bit stronger on the Liguria side for quality white wines. Then there's the Rossese di Dolce Acqua DOC. Definitely look for 100% Rossese if you can find it. That will be very, very interesting. That's the most important red varietal in the region. And then for those of you who want to explore a little bit further and look for something a little bit more niche in the region, there's the Ormeasco di Pornasio DOC, which is dolcetto, but it tastes very different from the Piemonte side of things. And the Ormeasco tends to be grown in the mountains of Liguria at higher elevations, which is also contributing to a different flavor profile than what you'd find in the Langhe of Piemonte. These are typically grown in the Alps of Liguria, the Ormeasco grapes. A rare treat indeed. So first white wine you should try. I'm giving you two here, just in case you can't find the first one. The Cinque Terre Bianco, I would definitely try that one first, and or the Vermentino Colli di Luni DOC. The Cinque Terre, always check the back label and make sure the majority varietal is Bosco, because I'd like you to try the Bosco varietal, and of course Vermentino from the Colli di Luni. First, red wine you should try. Definitely look for a Rossese di Dolce Acqua DOC. So that's it for Liguria. Make sure you subscribe to Gladiator Wine TV so you don't miss out on new videos about artisanal Italian wine and much, much more. And remember, great wines are not made in great numbers.